إن الحمد لله ثم الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه وعليه نتوكل ونتوب إليه ونعوذ به من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله هو خطب الأنبياء وإمام المرسلين فصلوات الله تعالى عليه وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما أسلم عليكم اليوم بتحية الجنة الفردوس السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته أما بعد. So first, I just want to apologize a little bit for the delay. There was actually supposed to be another khatib here today, and they had something of an emergency. So this will be a little bit impromptu on my part, so bear with me. But I want to actually, maybe just to make it simple and concise, everybody's fasting, and I don't want to keep it too long. But just a reminder, the other night in the khatira, we had talked about, what is the month of Ramadan? And the Quran itself describes what this month is, where Allah Ta'ala says, شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن, right? The month of Ramadan is that in which the Quran has been revealed. And therefore we have to ask ourselves, what is the Quran? What is its purpose? And Allah gives three descriptions: that it is hudan linnas, it is guidance for humanity, and it doesn't make any differentiation. Guidance for Muslim, guidance for non-Muslim. No, everybody needs guidance, including Muslim. Even after you become Muslim, you are still in need of having right guidance in your life. And then it is bayyinat min al-huda. It is also sound proofs. So as we said, one of the challenges that I see today that we have as an ummah is that we are not well versed in the Quran. So the Quran is not only guidance, but it has proofs for us then how to essentially enact and live out that. And therefore the reading of the Quran has to go beyond just just either reading it purely for the hasanat of the huruf, of reading the letters, or in this month, well, I'll read it this month, but what about Rajab and Sha'ban and Safar? What about all the other months of the year? Do we have a regular regiment of reading the Quran? And this month is beautiful in many ways because I know at least for myself, it reveals many things about myself, and it reveals many things about our community that we have to, be willing to look at ourselves critically so that we can improve ourselves. And then one of those things is, you look at the month of Ramadan, suddenly everybody becomes an expert on astrology, or astronomy rather, and moon sighting, and all of a sudden people are very particular about sighting the moon. But if you ask, well, did anybody sight the moon in Rabi al-Awwal? Nobody knows, right? Or in any other month, did it? No. But in this month, and yes, there is the particular ayah that deals with this, but nonetheless, in times before, the sighting of the moon was something our community did the 12 months of the year. So why is it that, we sort of develop this habit of, yes, Ramadan is a special month, but we have to live the other 11 months of the year. And do we have the feeling that we could go 11 months without doing our worship as we should, of maintaining our relationship with Allah, and then try to cram it all in 1 month? And some of us try to actually just cram it in one day in the month of Ramadan. So this gives us an insight as to, what is our day-to-day relationship? What is it like with Allah? Do I am the kind of person that reflects upon it? Do I try to make changes? Do I try to be a little bit more generous? Do I try to be a little bit more patient? Do I have a plan any other month of the year to give to charity? These are all things, inshallah, that we can think about. And then Allah says what the third part is, what Furqan, that the other quality that the Quran is, it gives the ability to choose between good and bad, right and wrong, or even what I like to think is also beautiful and ugly, because these are other aspects. As we said last night, when you go to Spain and you see the history and what I say, like the leftovers of Al-Andalus, that beautiful period, right? Why was Al-Andalus so beautiful in our history? It had some other things. It failed for some very good reasons too, but for its beautiful qualities. Why was Andalus such a beautiful place? It didn't have a lot to do with fiqh. It didn't have a lot to do with hifz of Quran, of Islamic studies and memorize. It didn't have the things that we tend to make the trophies today. In fact, when non-Muslims go to some of these places, they invoke kind of something almost spiritual or abstract that represents what our deen is, particularly beauty. When they go there, they say, wow, whatever those Muslims were, whether we agree with their theology or not, these were some people that were about creating beauty, and it is timeless. And this is something that I feel we have moved away from. And that part is distinguishing not only between right and wrong, and so it's also between beautiful and ugly, getting back to a spirit of creating beauty in our community. For some of our young people, it's not that they necessarily think Islam is wrong, but they are looking for some affirmation of beauty. They're looking, where is the beauty? They look to maybe other communities and say, wow, well, maybe they have the wrong theology, but they seem to have some aspects about what they do is beautiful. Why can't we also have beauty? And what we have to realize, beauty must go beyond the four walls of the masajid that we build. It has to go beyond the beautiful carpets and the chandelier, because these things, look at Andalus now. It's not even a masjid anymore. It's just like a museum of what used to be cool or great about Islam. And that's what happens when perhaps you do pay a little too much attention to those things that don't really have enduring substance, which means that the beauty ultimately has to be reflected from us. The beauty in Islam, the beauty of the Muslim community in particular, it has to be a reflection of our hearts. And therefore, if we don't see the beauty in our community, we can't blame it on the board, we can't blame it on the imam, we can't blame it on the non-Muslim, it's a reflection of our hearts. And so in this month, let us think about having guidance, of learning some of the clear proofs of how to live out that, and more importantly, let's learn to look at ourselves critically, see what's beautiful, see what's not beautiful, and work to remove that which is not beautiful and amplify that which is. Some of the easiest ways of doing this are having patience with one another. Many of us, and I think in particular there is a little bit of similarity between Andalus and America in terms of the Muslim community. We have a lot of diversity. Matter of fact, I would even say that the Muslim community in America is perhaps the most diverse Muslim community in our 1400 years or so of history yet. We have people here from every single persuasion of Muslim country. Then we have converts from everywhere. We all speak different languages. We all have different madhahib or different schools of thought. So this presents for us a challenge. How are we going to get together, and how are we going to create beauty when in some ways we will all have a different understanding of what beauty is? If you look around the room, right, some people, they're going to wear a thobe. I'm going to wear a very beautiful blue blazer with a really wonderful pocket square. Some women will wear the hijab one way, some another. So we all going to have, in some ways, different ideas of what we think beauty is. So how do we solve this? Well, the part of the start of solving this and creating beauty in our community again is not to insist that your form of beauty has to be exactly like mine. And this is some of the hikmah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that when he saw, wow, I'm creating a community and people are making their hijrah, right? Sometimes we say, well, hijrah is when you emigrate, you go from one place. But actually, the word, hajra in Arabic actually means what? To abandon. People left behind everything in their lives. They left behind this world. They left behind all those things to join the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that in itself, it created it's a very beautiful thing to do, but it created a challenge. How do we get these people that are coming from different tribes, different classes in society, how do we get them to come together? The first thing that they had to do was what? The most beautiful things in this world are what? Allah and His Messenger. That was the thing that beauty could unite around, versus we all just having our own little individual concepts of beauty and then not really creating unity around that beauty. That is what you could say, at least for a period of time, what Andalus did. It created a sense of unity around beauty. And that's why, even to this day, now that they're gone, but the rest of the world can look at what they did and can see, even without even uttering a word, what they did. There was some beauty and some unity there. And that's why it still kind of resonates in our hearts. But the other part is also in this month of getting back to a basic idea of who we are. And again, you know, Ramadan in some ways, it's like our hijrah. We are abandoning the world. We are abandoning food. We are abandoning drink. We are abandoning laghu, like, you know, vain talk. We are abandoning things that overly stimulate the senses during the daytime and even into the night, because the fast in terms of ta'am and drinks, of food and drinks, that is only in the day, but we don't generally have the concept, okay, well, you know, now that it's nighttime, I can go and just do whatever I want. Even in the month overall, there's a spirit of, you know, hal jaza'ul ihsani illa al-ihsan, of wanting to do excellent, because this is the most excellent time of year. You know, it's shahr khayrun min alfi shahr. What? It's a month, what is better than 1,000 months. So think about how we can create a sense of beauty, but also unity around it. So the step one is, I have to limit myself and how maybe correct I think I am. I'm gonna have to step back and actually put what Allah has said in His book and what His messenger has said and done. I'm going to have to prioritize those. And you know, we always think about, well, I need space in the community for myself. We tend to come with a very nafsi approach to this. But in fact, we should think about not just how can I make space for myself in this community, but how can I make space for you? How can I make you feel more comfortable? And if I help and make you feel more comfortable, if I'm gentle with you, if you come in here, as we said, that the masjid is like al-mustashfa, it's like a health clinic for the soul. We want people to come in and we want to feel that, you know what, no matter where you've been, no matter what you've done, that you can also always taba. You can always make tawbah. You can come back to again. That there isn't anything that you've done that Allah will not forgive you for. And therefore, as a community that we love to tell non-Muslims in our pamphlets, in our YouTube videos, in our interfaith seminars, we love to tell them how, you know, we are the community of rahmah, and our Prophet ﷺ was described as being rahmatan lil alameen. He was described as being a mercy to the worlds. And yet, is our community, does it reflect this mercy? That begins with me deciding preemptively to be merciful to you, despite the fact that maybe I disagree with the way you wear your hijab, or that you don't have a beard, or the length of your pants, or your madhab, or whatnot. Maybe I have some legitimate differences with you, but I can make the choice to be merciful to you. And that's what's so clear also about this month. It is a month of mercy for us, that we are allowed to have this chance to rejuvenate ourselves without the influence of the shayateen. So in the second khutbah, I want to talk about how in the story of when Allah created Adam, that He created him in a very unique and special way that is separate from the rest of His creation. And that should give us the inspiration to become more than just simply hayawan, just simply that we are more than animals. أولاً نسأل الله بالعافية. First, we ask Allah for well-being. ربنا اغفر لنا ذنوبنا وكفر عنا سيئاتنا. استغفر الله استغفر الله استغفر الله. الحمد لله وكفاه وصلواته وسلامه على رسوله المصطفى وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه وبعد. So we know وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ. We know this story in Surah Al-Baqarah, where Allah Ta'ala says to the angels, what? I'm going to جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ. What? Khalifa. I'm going to put a khalafa, like is like the one that comes after, or a caretaker. So Allah is saying to the angels, I'm going to put somebody on the earth that I'm going to make responsible for some things. Now, when Allah talks about the rest of the creation, He talks about خَلَقَ السَّمَوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ, right? He created the heavens and the earth. But for us, that we are what? جَعَلُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ. We are put on the earth. Which one shows that this really isn't our home. We're just duyuf. You know, like when you go to the haram, and you're making tawaf, you know, we call this, you know, duyuf ar-Rahman. You're like the guest of the most merciful. So we are just guests of Allah on this planet, in a sense, right? Just for a time until the next life. And therefore, we are different than everything else that is here. Even those other creatures that have big brains and all this other stuff, or apparently have to have similar DNA, 97% is similar to a chimpanzee. And yet a chimpanzee doesn't make tawaf. A chimpanzee doesn't make sajda. A chimpanzee doesn't give sadaqah, right? There's something unique to the human being that is very different than the rest of the creation. And then after this, Allah talks about how وَعَلَّمَ الْآدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا, right? And that He taught Adam the names of all things. This is perhaps one of the most important lessons to take from the creation story of Adam, because it's also really about us, is that we have, not by our own means, but by Allah's fadl, by Allah's blessing, we have been given the understanding of the world that we live in, that we can discern right from wrong. Animals just live in the world and they kind of are like pre-programmed. They eat and drink and they don't really go to excess. But we have the capacity to go to excess, because we know right and we know wrong. Animals don't really know wrong. They just kind of know right, and that's what they do what they do. But in this Adam al-asma'a kullaha, of teaching Adam the names of all things, and then when he presented this, he told Adam, present this then to the angels and ask them if they can explain this. And they said, what? Ma ilma illa ma 'allamtana. We have no knowledge other than what you have given us. There's really something special about us. And the point that I'm getting to is that once upon a time, and I don't want this to, when I read Muslim history, the saddest part is that it doesn't have to be history. It can be Muslim now. It doesn't have to be Muslim history. It can be Muslim now. Part of getting to that now, of being great again, is being inspired to create beauty and to give this as a gift to the world, right? The modern world right now, most of all this gadgetry that we have, all the mathematics and science behind it, you can trace back at some point the Muslims were the progenitors of a lot of this stuff. Medicine, all of these things. So we gave a great gift to the world. But then it's like, I don't know, we just got satisfied with ourselves and decided to take a seat. But we need to get back in the game, because clearly look at the world around us. I've said this and I'll say it again until we learn it. This country, as wonderful as we think this country is, there are some things that this country has not been able to figure out how to do. And that one is particularly how not to treat people poorly simply because of the color of their skin. Despite the economic achievements of America, despite the military might, despite all the cultural or the technological wonders that we can create here, we still can't seem to somehow just leave brown and black people alone. Just continue to create this hostile environment. So for us, how are we going to contribute? Are we just going to come here, collect paychecks, make some good money? Because again, we said last night, right, the Muslim community, particularly in America, very well educated, very affluent, very, very well to do. But are we in these communities or these fields like medicine and law and engineering? Are we in these fields to really be the innovators in them, or are we just like upper management? Are we there just kind of claiming benefits, or are we really the innovators in those communities like we used to be and like how we always love to talk about? And a friend of mine made me laugh yesterday. He said, man, if next year janitors got a pay increase to 200 grand a year and doctors had a pay decrease to 50 grand a year, everybody in the Muslim community will have a mop and a broom. Which really says like, most of us go into these fields because, and there's nothing wrong with making money, right? We go into them because they pay well. But it's like we have abandoned also to carry with us the altruistic spirit that's within Islam that comes from the fact that what? Our Lord, the one that made us, the one that made the heavens and the earth, taught us the names of all things. We know what is beautiful, we know what is right, and we know what is wrong. So whatever we do, we need to imbue this again with a sense of beauty, of mercy, and give this freely to the world. Not be worried about, well, what are the intellectual property rights of, no. Just like our forefathers in this deen, give it to the world as a gift, and we know the ajr, and we know the reward is waiting for us from Allah in the next life. And in doing so, finally we can actually make this world a little bit more humane, and a little bit better to live in. Because we should not be just satisfied that we've made it when we look out the window and we can clearly see there's a lot of people out here that haven't. There was an article yesterday they published, 1 out of 2 Americans struggles with paying their rent or their mortgage and providing food. 1 out of 2, right? Struggles, let alone people that not just a struggle, they can't make it at all. So we have a lot that we can do here that is beyond just simply, breathing and existing. We can once again become the muhsin, the people of ihsan, the people of excellence. That can start with this month of rejuvenating our relationship with Allah through His book and of course through His messenger. So I ask Allah to give us tawfiq, to give us success in this endeavor. May Allah again make us the people of the Quran. Allahumma ij'alna min ahl al-Quran. Oh Allah, make us again from the people of the Quran. And may Allah have mercy upon those Muslims that are struggling in Syria and Philistine. And we ask Allah, and to remind the Muslims not to forget our brothers and sisters in China who are not only just struggling, they're struggling even just to be Muslim. The Chinese government is incredibly tyrannical against them. So let's remember our brothers and sisters around the world that their challenge isn't just the length of the fast, it's just to be Muslim.